ice is dropped on a wall pass Wednesday here at Soccer Down here. It is apologies up front once again. Day 2 of the head cold, or it's more like a sinus thing. Because literally, Jarrett, if I could just detach my nose and just have it like off to the side, I think I'd be fine. But apparently the nose is something that is vital to human function, so it kind of has to stay on your face at all times. So
the percentage of SDH that is becoming sick is growing, and I don't know. I mean, we're going to cut off a limb at some point just to stop the infection.
yeah, I think that this is a good enough limit right here. It's just like, look, we'll stop right now. None of us outside of who is currently on the recovery list is allowed to get sick. So John here, Jarrett there. And, there's a lot of stuff to talk about here on a Wall Pass Wednesday. Thanks to folks who have chimed in on the Twitters at Soccer Down here, at OSG Nelson, at Jarrett_Smith with thoughts about what's going on today. And Wall Pass Wednesday traditionally goes all over the place because it's the midweek. And unless there is a midweek whip around, patent pending, trademark coming, hopefully, then you're talking about stuff that's going on overseas. You're talking about things like, I don't know, the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup Trophy. You're talking about the Canadian Championship. And we talked about it a little bit yesterday with everything with all of the European stuff, all the European different championships going on. Tomorrow is the big day for Europa Conference League. 46 or 47 matchups tomorrow. So for those of you that have Paramount Plus, and it'll be the day for you to really challenge your system for Paramount Plus. We'll go over that tomorrow. We got some juice boxes that we'll get into a little later on in the show. The Wednesday visit with Dylan Butler will come up on the network a little later on. We'll talk to Dylan about everything in his sphere of influence and what he saw and what he's going to see. And we'll have him rip open the crystal ball and see what's going on.
I would imagine he has some thoughts on the news out of New York too.
Yes,
Queens area.
Yes, we're going to get into that as well. So we'll get into that news, and I'm glad you reminded me of that. Where, considering we've had so many false starts with the notion of a stadium for NYCFC, it's like it's on, it's off, it's on, it's off. I feel like the Seinfeld sketch. Why don't you pick a venue and stick with it? One of those kind of things. But let's see. So opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. And you can follow along with our friends at Kickoff Coffee, Kickoff Coffee CO on Twitter, on Facebook, and on Instagram. Reminder, and thanks to everybody who has helped out with Kickoff Coffee and has helped spread the word about Kickoff Coffee. Use the code SoccerDownHere15, and you get 15% off of your purchase. But once again, reminder that 10% of the proceeds head toward youth development. We really dig that. So great stuff being done by our friends at Kickoff Coffee. And once again, Soccer Down Here 15, 10% of the total purchase heads toward youth development. Very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee. So Jarrett, since you mentioned what is apparently, allegedly, possibly, maybe happening in New York with Eric Adams coming public and saying, hey, here's the thought. I think that probably the morning kickoff and the opening kickoff once again deals with NYCFC.
Yeah, I think it does, and this is the news that's come out in the last 24 hours that Eric Adams talking about the approval for a stadium for New York City FC, and this is something that we've all been beating our heads against a wall about nationwide. That you got to get a stadium at some point because you got to have NYC getting out of Yankee Stadium. It's still an embarrassment. That's never stopped, and it's not ever going to be okay. You're playing a top flight team. Team that is currently your league champion, your reigning league champion, in a baseball stadium in a field that is not fit for anyone other than MLS, and that is just a stretch that MLS is able to do it. Bending the probably rounding some numbers a bit on the square footage, on the distances. No one else is letting teams do this. You're not going to have CONCACAF teams go play in Yankee Stadium, so. It's good that you're getting into this progress now where you have the mayor speaking on it. Hopefully you're able to get it going. Talked to a couple people yesterday who are of New York persuasion, because this is the thing about this. I don't know enough about New York. I don't know enough about the neighborhoods and the boroughs and how they all interact. Because if you ask somebody who has never been to Atlanta to come in and pick a spot for a stadium, It would be very interesting because they might pick a weird spot and then you have to explain why it would or would not work or the quirks of a neighborhood. And it's the same thing with New York. I'm excited to hear what Dylan has to say about this. Talk to Emilio in the Discord about it. Open to talking to anyone else about it who knows New York and specifically knows the area of, I believe it's going to be Queens. They were talking about putting it in, John.
Yep. Yeah, it is in
Flushing Meadows.
Yeah, and so from the New York Post
Yeah.
yesterday, Josh Cosman and Bernadette Hogan have the byline on it, quoting a source, and we know how that goes. Quote, a deal is close, but negotiations are ongoing. 25,000-seat soccer stadium to be built near Citi Field, and that's sources close to the situation. With the mayor's blessing, it would still need to be approved through the Uniform Land Use Review Procedure, or the ULURP, which is not a given, according to sources. A new stadium for the reigning Cup champs could be built by 2025. Could be built in time for the 2026 World Cup. You had a new stadium most likely being built in the Bronx, no longer the case. So it's not clear yet who would pay for the stadium, but sources said it would be privately funded, built on land leased by former Mets owner Sterling Equities and related companies. This is part of the 61-acre Special Willets Point District, and it gives you the borders and the Van Wyck Expressway for those of you that know your geography as a part of this. Presently, Citi Field and the Arthur Ashe Tennis Stadium are in the Flushing Meadows Park area, so you could have a soccer stadium and possibly, if Steve Cohen gets his way, a full-scale casino could be added. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, commitments to affordable housing and a public school in Willets Point, which will likely be raised in the ULURP process. Adams spokesman said, quote, there's no agreement at this time. We continue to engage in ongoing conversations around the mayor's goals of building a world-class soccer stadium. I feel like we should have like patriotic music and an American flag waving behind us. Building a world-class soccer stadium in New York City that will finally give NYCFC a permanent home, bring in millions of dollars in revenue to boost the local economy and grow affordable housing options for New Yorkers. Second sentence. The club is enthusiastic about the potential of a few locations for our soccer-specific stadium and remains as committed as ever to working with our fans, local community groups, and elected officials to deliver this transformative project. We're grateful for the mayor's support in understanding that the reigning MLS champions need a permanent home, end quote, an NYCFC spokesman said. So, yeah, that's all the information that we know. But, yeah, getting Dylan's perspective, you're square on. It'll be interesting, and Dylan has mentioned, Citi Field. This has been one of the things that he has mentioned this entire time about it being out in Queens, and so this could definitely be part of the deal here. But yeah, when this came across the bow yesterday, Jarrett, you're talking about a team that has played already this season, Yankee Stadium, Citi Field, Red Bull Arena, and they've also had home matches in Bank of California Stadium in Los Angeles because they have Champions League, and they're just like, screw it, we'll stay out here out west. So these are nomads, and they need a home, and they've needed a home forever. And, you can't play in that U12 futsal container that they have right now. You just can't. How can you be taken seriously, Jarrett, if you're playing at Yankee Stadium and Yankee Stadium dictates to you, yeah, you can play here then, but you can't play here then because there are 2 dates in September that they've got to move. You can't play because of baseball.
Yeah, and what's worse than that, and the thing that's I think aggravated me the most is we already know the dimensions are, borderline at best on a good day. I don't ever buy this argument that it's a great that like you're able to sneak all the dimensions in there. I firmly believe you're fudging the numbers.
I think
That's okay. You're making it You're making it work because you don't really have an option right now. I blame a lot of people up top for this, for putting a team in place in the first place. And I know you wanted another team in New York, especially with Red Bull Arena being out in Jersey. And we've talked about that before, the idea that Red Bull was leaning harder into that blue collar Jersey vibe. But I know you wanted a team in New York, but y'all put a damn team out there and you're going to have gone on 10 years without a permanent stadium. That's unacceptable that it lasted that long, that y'all did this in the first place without a plan. And yeah, I mean, great that it's finally getting done because they need it to be done. They need a place to play. They need a permanent home and a place that they can build up and build in the community with. I do not have the cholesterol nor the time or the energy. I definitely don't have the energy right now to argue and yell about, the economic impact stuff because man, I don't even want to. I don't even want to do it right now. We'll save that. I'll save that bullet for another day. And keep that in my breast pocket. But I'm very interested to see what it would look like, grand scheme of things, in terms of size. Being where it is, I imagine mass transit, you'd be able to handle things. So good on you for finally getting it done. Better late than never. Still mad at MLS for letting all this happen in the first place without a permanent stadium, because Yankee Stadium, size aside, the fact that you've had teams go in there and talk about, the quality of the turf isn't good, like guys are slipping. Come on, man, that's somehow even worse. And it makes sense because playing in baseball fields can get a little weird at times. We see it in USL where, like, Memphis plays on a baseball field that can get a little dodgy sometimes. Atlanta did their first year at Coolray Field. Um, it can get a little weird with the surfaces and not great. And then you get into that debate of, would you rather play on a really bad grass surface or a good turf surface?
Yeah.
And you have people with different opinions on that.
I'm trying to think in USL Championship off the top of my head. Memphis, El Paso.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think of who else has baseball stadia that are attached to. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to drag out the standings, and so that way I can stare at it and go, yeah, okay, you folks. Let's see. All right, staring at the standings. Tampa Bay converted Al Lang from a baseball stadium, or from a baseball stadium to a soccer stadium, so that no longer counts. Let's see. I think those are the only two. And you've got Memphis. When we talked about Memphis in the Eastern Conference, Western Conference, everybody started to create their own. And scanning. Oh, Vegas at Cashman Field. And so you're only talking about, I think, 3 or 4 in USL Championship that have this kind of convergence that is there, and it causes problems. I mean, we've seen, and I mean, we can go back to the Atlanta United Nashville exhibition game.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
That was amazing, because when some of that was weather related, where the ball would just get kicked and go 10 feet and stop on a dime. It was amazing.
Right. But that's the premise, that when you have a baseball stadium that is attached and then converted to a soccer field, a soccer pitch, then this is what you're getting yourself into. And at Yankee Stadium specifically, I think Peter Vermes has actually measured it to like 66 or 67 feet. And I mean, honestly,
that is the most Peter Vermes thing to do too. Like, that man would be the one to walk out there and literally, like Bob Vila, measure that thing out.
Oh yeah. And so I think he's measured it at 67. And it's just it creates pinball on a U12 futsal pitch. And NYC, I give them credit. They've adapted to that allegedly legal surface, and they come up with a style that functions in that building. It takes, when you're outside of the building, it's different when you're on the road. Then we can get into Tati Castellanos here, headed toward the weekend whip around as to what to expect from NYC. But you're staring at, an adjustment that you've had to make, and the rest of the league. I mean, it's a great home field advantage. Do not get me wrong. It is a great home field advantage, but it is not a facility that you should be playing Major League Soccer on. And as the world is coming to you in 2026, you should not be having folks practicing if Yankee Stadium is in one of the practice facilities or whatever, something like that. You shouldn't have that as one of your showcase venues in one of your top media markets in the country. It's like, oh, okay, so New York City, yes, you've got the Meadowlands, you've got Red Bull Arena, and you've got Yankee Stadium. You can't have that, especially with the world coming in 2026.
No, and a facility they built for 2026, I imagine. I don't know if they would redo a practice facility or whatnot, but it would give them an option as a practice facility for some of these World Cup teams to come in and play and come in and practice and get loose, and it'd be a fun opportunity for everybody. So hopefully,
crowds that show up to these things. It's just like,
I mean, hopefully
open practice at this new facility in Queens. And you'd have probably, depending on the club, and I'm sure that they would stack it, and sell and have concessions and everything. You could have the revenue source for that kind of activity in New York City and the NYC area. For the World Cup in 2026, it's a no-brainer in this situation.
Yeah, hopefully they get it done. Because, man, look, it's long term. It's just foolish to keep having them play at a baseball stadium. It's just I hate the concept of it. I think it's completely annoying and dumb to keep them playing at a baseball stadium.
You're not alone.
You can't do it. You cannot do it. So hopefully this gets done. Hopefully it lands in Queens and they're able to get everything the way they need it to be, and we don't have to talk about it anymore in due time.
Yeah, we can talk about it in development stages. Hopefully, that's the morning kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, Kickoff Coffee CO, kickoffcoffeeco.com. You can follow them, and we request that you do on Twitter, on Facebook, and on Instagram at Kickoff Coffee CO, kickoffcoffeeco.com. Reminder, use the code soccer down here 15 to get 15% off your Kickoff Coffee purchases. And also the secondary reminder that 10% of the proceeds for Kickoff Coffee head toward youth development and the sport of soccer. Very, very cool stuff that they're doing. Our friends at Kickoff Coffee at kickoffcoffeeco.com. Canadian Championship. Was this on your radar last night?
Not really. And also I went to bed early last night because I had a long day yesterday. But I know they were playing, and I expected Vancouver to get over the hump, and they did.
Yeah, and it took to penalties for that to happen. And here's how the match ended, courtesy of our friends at One Soccer and Canada Soccer.
Well, they've already had enough to put them in front. If they stay a perfect 5 for 5, the V Cup is going to hang out in Vancouver on this Wednesday night now on the East Coast, late at BC Place. It is Blackman on his right, champions again! For the first time since 2015, Vancouver wins the Battle of the North! What an atmosphere. The crowd has come alive. Sartini has the top off, challenging Papaduka for the best celebration at BC Place from the coach. Unbelievable. Sartini, you know what this means to them. You know what this means to the supporters. They score first. They score in each and every round, Jimmy. Thoroughly deserved champions.
Yeah. They did it. You can see what it means to the fans, to Sartini, the organization. They had a game plan, they stuck to it, and they took their penalties well tonight.
Tristan Blackman with a piece of Whitecaps history that will forever have his last name all over it as Vancouver Whitecaps prevail in the penalty shootout, and they are the 2022 Canadian Championship winners. The party on the West Coast is just getting started. We will, of course, have the trophy presentation and all the coverage as well.
So, Vanni Sartini went Ronnie Dyla after the match, just up top. He took his shirt off and paraded around BC Place. So
Canada in the summer is different than Canada in the winter.
True, and you know when you're in,
I believe it's like Minnesota. The national bird is the mosquito.
That is absolutely correct, sir, and I can vouch for that, for having family reunions in Minnesota during the summer months. And I was completely and totally thought of as a meal for about several hundred mosquitoes one time at a family reunion up there in Minnesota, in Bloomington. Yeah, so no, I can vouch for the mosquito being the state bird of Minnesota without question. But yeah, Vancouver gets it done, and they end up with a Canadian championship, first time in 7 years. And they get to go into CONCACAF Champions League. So bully for the folks out in Vancouver, and the Whitecaps head in, and Vanni Sartini. I think it was the second largest crowd for a Canadian championship, dating back to a match I want to say in 2017 in Toronto. They had over 23,000 last night at BC Place. Place was raucous and rowdy, as it should have been. Very, very cool to see those scenes. And folks have been sending in their thoughts this morning for those of us here on a Wall Pass Wednesday, and one of them, centered around Julian Gressel. And
I've heard of him.
Yeah, Lamont Michael. How about Gressel? Gets transferred and immediately wins the Canadian Championship. Scored a penalty too, so part of the PKs at the end. But yeah, I mean Julian Gressel just gets parachuted into the situation in Vancouver and gets to play in the CONCACAF Champions League with the result.
And we've talked about it before with Julian that it seems like it's the kind of situation that he can benefit from because the vibe that comes out of DC is that he doesn't really fit with what Wayne Rooney wants to do going forward. Julian Gressel's not a right back.
Yeah.
He can play right wing, but I don't think he's not your best option at the right wing or up in the midfield in a 4-man back line. But put him on a 3-man back line and make him your wing back.
Yep.
Dude's really, really good.
Absolutely.
And there's nuances to all of it, but it's a good role for him. If he's not going to fit what's going on in DC, I think we rehashed this. We can hit it again real quick.
Yeah.
He's going to a place where he's going to fit what they want to do, and DC is going to get a fair amount of money for him potentially, and a very, very north of 900,000 if he hits his all the escalators get hit.
Right.
So it's good for DC to get something for him, and Vancouver seems like it could be a good fit for him, especially playing that if they're going to be playing that system where hey, we just need somebody to play right wing back really well. Well, that's your guy to do it. He's going to carry a high budget charge, but he's also one of the better players in the league, if not the best player in the league, to do it at the right wing back role. And good for him for landing somewhere though that that's going to fit what he needs to do, because styles make fights. And sometimes players fit, sometimes they don't. DC was not fit at times, I think, for him. And, it doesn't help that DC has been so damn up and down.
Or just bad.
Yeah, they had like a couple of good moments last year when Losada got in there and, when it was all fresh and new, and then it just never got over the hill. And then this year it's just kind of languished. And now, you're looking at a team that's going to be, it looks as though they are going to be fighting for the wooden spoon. Now, it's no guarantee they could rattle some stuff off and get out from under that, out of that basement, but it's going to be a tough situation. But it's good for Julian and good for Vancouver. Puts them back in CONCACAF Champions League. It's something to build off for next year. They get a couple cracks at teams from Central America. Maybe they end up, they have a Charlie Brown energy about them that makes me think, oh, they're going to have to play the champions of Mexico in the first round, aren't they?
Yeah, they'll probably come in as your 16 seed, for lack of a better way to phrase it, and probably end up playing the winner of the Liga MX or something like that. So that would be my guess, is that Vancouver gets paired with a Liga MX side in round one. But Vanni Sartini has done great work, and when you have and he's played the Ted Lasso card. One of the recent stills that sticks in my mind when he was trying to remind the fans in Vancouver that Insigne, Bernardeschi, and Criscito are coming. It's like, no, you're going to root for our guys. If you're in this, you're going to root for our guys if you're coming in this building, and and if you're from Vancouver. And so he points. I think it was just outside the locker room. And there's a still photo of him pointing, and much like the Ted Lasso Believe, there's Andiamo above the door frame. And so, hey, let's go. And so they did exactly that. And I thought that was very cool. And Sartini lost his, or no, I was going to say he didn't lose it. He jettisoned his shirt after the match was over, and was flashing the guns to everybody. So great work by Vancouver and the Whitecaps getting your Canadian Championship last night. Having to go and get the Duke against Toronto at home against a Toronto team that has really put the pedal down offensively with their recent acquisitions. And Michael Bradley thinks he's back with Roma and all of these kinds of things. So great work by Vancouver and the Whitecaps last night, winning the Canadian Championship. Once again, I admit we're bouncing around because it's a Wall Pass Wednesday. There's a lot of stuff on a lot of folks' minds, and I know that there's some Atlanta United stuff coming up from folks in just a little bit. Have you been watching the women's Euros at all?
Watched the demolition yesterday.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is before we get into the demolition yesterday and to give a quick juice box preview as to what's happening today with the Lionesses and friend of the network, Jessica Charman. If you follow her on Twitter, as you should, at Jess Talks Footy, follow her, especially when the Lionesses are playing or when there's anything having to do with Great Britain going on in the world of soccer, because her timeline is a must read. We can just see the raw emotions of stuff happening. So there was one of the goals yesterday that I wanted to run the play-by-play of, and I'm going to run both versions. And what I mean by that is we're going to run the version that you heard from Ian Dark and Julie Foudy on ESPN, and we're also going to run the version from 2 to NA of the double nutmeg goal that happened with the Lionesses. Here you go.
Kira Welsh just does so many sensible things with the ball. That's another one. Kirby plays it back. Russo has to score, but doesn't. But now she does with a brilliant back heel. What about that from Alicia Russo? That's one of the goals of the tournament. 3-0 England, who surely now are on their way to the European Championship final. Pure impudence.
And the movement by this English front six has been so good. Again, it's Kirby with the little gap. She finds another seam. Walsh is going to find her, and what a perfectly paced ball that is. And then that ball across. And Russo wondering, how did I not make that first one? Ends up, I think, megging Lindahl in the end. Oh, my. What a goal that is to even attempt it.
Para sentar, retiene la pelota y vuelve a tocar.
Walsh gira. Walsh tiene para ir. Pelota filtrada. Kirby, centro, diagonal, remate todavía. Russo 2 veces. Se acaba de tocar. ¡Golazo! 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 ¡Gol! ¡Golazo de Inglaterra! Y nos ponemos de pie y le decimos a Russo, thank you, acaba de hacer un golazo. Inglaterra firma el tercero y es una rúbrica precisa, preciosa y perfecta.
Insisto, lo que hace Kirby, se bota para que le den el pase y luego se mete al espacio. El centro retrasado, pero lo de Russo es espectacular. Una gente vale por sus recursos y este recurso que nos ha regalado Russo es increíble. Taco y después túnel.
Apaguen y vámonos. Lo que acaba de hacer Russo, su cuarto gol en esta Eurocopa, es una verdadera locura. ¿Por qué? Porque ya se había perdido una por parte de Hemp, que le faltó como media talla de zapatos para rematar, pero ahora viene esta por parte de Kirby. Nosotros dijimos, ya se le escapó el remate.
That was just, I mean, Jarrett, that was just flat out ridiculous. You know, and you could tell that the match was tilting, but then you get a moment like that and everything just blows up.
Yeah, it was very impressive to see an England team that a couple of years ago, let's go back in time, let's get the time machine and go back to a time when they, you get into their match against the United States in 2019, where probably should have won that match. And now, sitting on the steps of taking the Euros, and they've continued to get better. And look, England's not a bad team at all. So, I mean, I don't mean it in this way, but it's kind of feels like they have learned not just how to win, but how to punish and how to they knew how to win games. They've known how to grind games out. They've known how to take advantage of teams that are disadvantaged going into the game. And look, that was a little bit sketchy with, I think it was Spain.
Yeah, it was
last week.
Yeah,
like a Spain team that's missing a number of players, and England kind of played with their food and ended up in a really bad spot. They get the goal late, then they get the goal in stoppage time. Or extra time, excuse me. But now getting to the point where it's not like we know how to win. Oh no, we know how to punish you and remove all hope. And this is a game we should win. So we're going to go out and not only lean on you, we're going to fall on you and lay there. And it's really impressive. So great on you, England. They should be the favorite going into the final. It's a really cool era for England fans. I know they don't have a major trophy yet, but the women should have beaten the U.S. in 2019, probably.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
And the men just lost a heartbreaker in the Euros and had a great showing in the last World Cup. And we are a couple months out from the next World Cup. It's not a bad time at all for England fans because the men should be competing for titles. The women should be competing for titles on both sides of the sport.
Yeah.
Doing really good work and in really good spots. So for their sake, hopefully they get at least a couple trophies out of it and they don't pull a Belgium where you get all this golden generation that you don't get anything from. But it is still fun nevertheless to see them growing in such a way and being fun in such a way. Even though, you're going to get the antagonistic side of things where, if they get into another shootout and it doesn't go their way, and then, you get the England narrative that comes with it, it's still fun right now that both sides of that coin of the men's and women's programs are just on it.
Well, and the funny part, I think, to some, and you're this close to having a tournament where the headlines are going to be it's staying home. And it's the women's team that is going to be the first one through the door where this is concerned. It's not going to be the men. It's the women that are going to have, if they, win against either Germany or France, and that's at 3:00 this afternoon. Juice boxes quickly. Germany's a plus 146. Your 90-minute draw is a plus 213. France is basically a plus 200. England's going to a final. 87,000 people will be there. That match was already sold out before the tournament began because you had, I guess, a lot of anticipation as to who folks wanted to see in that last match of the tournament. 87,000 people are going to be at that particular match. And if it's the Lionesses that break through first, that's going to be an interesting part of this as well, where it's not the men, but it's the women getting that first major trophy in this particular generation of talent.
It'll be interesting. Men came so close in 2018. Women should have had it, probably could have had it in 2019. And yeah, I don't doubt that it was sold out ahead of time because they had no reason not to embrace being that team. It's okay. This is one of those things where like, hey man, it's okay to feel like you are the top dog and to feel like you are the favorite because you are.
Yeah.
And there's no shame in admitting that. You don't have to run from, you don't have to play up. This kind of aggravated me with the Spain game with some of the comments of the broadcast and, they were dead and they had to fight their way. Like, man, yeah, they played with their food. It's not like no one believed in them. They should be the favorite. They're a great team.
Yeah.
You don't have to spin it like they're overcoming some great obstacles. Like some of their wounds have been self-inflicted.
They're overcoming the notion of the food that was on their plate that they played with they didn't like, and they had to eat food they didn't like. That's the
sorry you had to eat broccoli and Brussels sprouts. Brussels sprouts are good when you get older. It's okay.
That's the
but you're the favorite. Be the favorite. Be the bully. It's okay. I promise it's actually a lot of fun. And
it's being the top dog.
Yeah, because you're the favorite here. And you are going to be in that conversation as one of the favorites in the next Women's World Cup. Men should be in the conversation of favorites for this World Cup coming up in December. Along with, I'm sure, Brazil and Argentina are going to be part of that conversation.
Belgium, yeah.
Yeah, Belgium just...
I know.
I think it's one of those things where it's like 15 times bitten, twice shy.
Yeah.
At this point with Belgium, like I'm tired of like thinking Belgium's going to turn the corner because they should have already done it. They don't. Yeah, the golden generation. That's just going to be a generation of what could have been.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, man, embrace this if you're England. Yeah, sure, everybody should have bought tickets for this one because they should be in the final. And here they are. They did the job. They made it tough on themselves at times. But then in the semifinal, they just deconstructed somebody at an atomic level. Yeah. It was beautiful.
since we're basically at halftime, it's Wall Pass Wednesday here at Soccer Down here. Jarrett there, John here, going over all of your thoughts, going over what we saw yesterday, and working our way forward into what's happening today, tonight, tomorrow. We'll be back again tomorrow for Thursday Thoughts. And once again, reminder, Dylan Butler, our weekly conversation with him. That'll be up on the network later this afternoon. Thursday, very, very busy day where we'll catch up with your thoughts, with our thoughts. Nico Moreno will be by on the network for his normal Thursday visit. And with the later conversations that we're having, traditionally now he's in his second cup of coffee. We'll be catching up with part of the USLW champ South Georgia Tormenta. We'll be catching up with them over this week and next. Looks like our first visit.
Love to see it.
Yeah, with our first visit, and I've got something that irked me a little bit, and we'll get into in just a sec. Jim Robbins, the head coach, and Amy Andrews, Golden Boot and Player of the Year in USLW, will be catching up with them tomorrow as well. That'll be up on the network. And then on Friday, it is the weekend whip around, patent pending, trademark coming, and we'll be catching up with Greg Garza for our weekly visit with Beyond Goals Mentoring. So a very, very busy week here at the network. All right, so now that you mentioned South Georgia Tormenta, and by the way, you can get gear. You can get your championship gear
That's what I'm here for. That's all I needed to hear today.
Absolutely. And there's and when we catch up with Amy Andrews, I got to find out. I've got to ask her about this particular TikTok that was posted that's become very, very popular, and find out the genesis of it. But all right, there's a television program that runs on one of the networks, and they do top plays. That try to have something at the end of the show, what we refer to as a kicker at the end of a program in TV parlance, where you come up with something fluffy and you send folks out with, it's a greatest plays, like the top 10 plays, that kind of a thing. Something at the end of the show to get you to the end of the show, but it's light and fluffy. It's not newsy. It's just kind of information, and it shows that you're, kind of paying attention to everything going on around you. This particular program, for their number one play, chose the equalizer goal by Minnesota Aurora to make it 1-1 in the championship game. That was their top play for their top.
As opposed to the triple save in overtime?
Yes.
Or extra time?
Yes.
Where South Georgia Tormenta goalkeeper saved from the spot, then saved two more times in the span of 3 seconds?
Uh-huh.
That had a very what was it? Was it the famous clip? John, I'm going to you because you're England. Was it? It's the was it Watford and Leicester?
Oh, the promotion playoff where
the penalty is saved and it goes back the other way and they score to walk it off.
Yeah.
Okay, it was. I know Leicester was part of it, but I couldn't remember if it was Watford was on the other end of it.
Troy Deeney, and it's one of the greatest moments in the English Championship, and it's on
the greatest moments in sports history because it's such a emotionally crippling swing.
Yeah. So Leicester, and I know we're going off on a sidebar here, but just to recap, Leicester and Watford are chasing promotion in the Premier League, and Leicester has a penalty at 90 plus.
Yeah, it's like 95th minute.
And they can lock it down, and Watford's got no chance. And you see, at the time, Gianfranco Zola was the head coach for Watford, and he's being all nervous and everything. Watford saves the penalty, instantly clear it, and it ends up being a Troy Deeney goal the other way that aids them in their chase to promotion to the Premier League. So in the USLW championship game, there's a penalty call, and Aurora have the chance to go up late, 2-1. Sidney Martinez saves the penalty and then saves two others at the near post.
Saves two rebounds.
Yeah. And that was not the number one play for this particular television program. The equalizing goal from distance over Sidney Martinez was.
It's good goal, but context.
Yes.
Context.
Yes, context. And so
it's not to take anything away from that goal from Minnesota Aurora. It's a great goal. Also, credit to Minnesota Aurora, by the way, as we've gone down the rabbit hole of soccer down here being the South and our love of South Georgia Tormenta.
Yeah.
But man, credit to the Aurora for what they've built up there because it's really damn impressive.
Yeah. and you look at what Aurora did, and Sarah Fuller, for those that might
people know Sarah Fuller from the Vanderbilt kicking thing. Put her between the sticks, she's a problem.
Yeah, and she helped Aurora be the only team to make it, make it the longest with an undefeated season. And they've done some great things up there with Minnesota Aurora, community owned, and played at TCO. You had 6,500 people at the USLW championship game, but just
I think that was the only game they lost this year.
Yeah, it was absolutely. And you have just when folks do these kinds of things with kickers and
the whole damn game should have been your play of the game. The whole damn game was bonkers.
And Jada Naibi with her 2 goals, which gave Tormenta the early lead and then gave them the win late in extra time. I mean, her second goal was an absolute banger from like 22 or 23. So it's just the fact that this particular show chose the equalizer instead of the triple save. It irked me no end. Yeah. And suffice to say that particular show got called out for it by a bunch of folks, and a lot of them down in Tormenta territory, and rightfully so.
Well, I mean, let's not forget the fact that Statesboro's had a hell of a time with it. You had a tragedy about a month ago now down there, and and then on top of that, this is a team on the men's side, a team that made a run at U.S. Open Cup, should have beaten Miami if Drake Callender does not stand on his head in that game. They had Inter Miami dead to rights.
Yeah.
You go back and look at the highlights of that game. Callender just entered the avatar state for about 50 minutes because that game very easily could have been like 4-0 Tormenta at halftime.
Yeah.
He made a number of saves in that game that he had no business making, and they should have taken an MLS scalp that night. They really have had a great year, and then you add a women's championship as well in its own right, not even an association with the men's, but like the women went out there and won that championship, beat an Aurora team that hadn't lost all year, and did it in Minnesota. It was a great time for things down at Statesboro.
Yeah, and it was great to see everybody down in Statesboro leading into that championship weekend up in Minnesota. But yeah, when you're a head coach and you can bring in a player from Western Illinois University, and Amy Andrews. And Amy Andrews just goes absolutely berserk and was the Golden Boot winner and league MVP in USLW. When you've got that kind of reach and that kind of pull, I think that it really sets up well for Tormenta as they continue to grow their groups and all of their different teams all across the board, whether it's League One, League Two, the A, or the W. You get this kind of a trophy in your first season. And by the way, I did get confirmed that the trophy did have its own seat on the plane on the way back,
as it should have.
And because you got to secure it, you got to make sure that it's not floating around the cabin or anything. You got to make sure that it's in the seat and put the seatbelt on. But no, it's great stuff going on in Statesboro, Georgia. But just I was irked at the choice for the top play being something that was considerate. It should have been in consideration for top 10 for the weekend for that particular program, not number 1. So it's just, it got to me, and it got to a lot of folks in Statesboro. So I wanted to put that out there, just as one of the things that irked me today.
And as we're hitting, entering the fourth quarter of this, you want to hit the rest of our Wall Pass Wednesday?
Yeah, and it's a couple of things, and they have to do with Atlanta United. And as we're getting into getting ready for the road trip to Chicago this weekend, another big. All the games on the road now are big. Bottom line, you've got to steal points. You've got to get full points. You've got to get these kinds of results, and it's got to start in Chicago. Bottom line, but we'll get into that as we get later in the week. Kevin from Charlotte read the DSS article on the top trolling moments from Darren Eales. Kevin is going to miss Darren Eales. Kevin, you are not alone in that assessment at all. Not one bit. Considering what Darren has done with, pub diplomacy, door to door, being out there with fans, being active part of tailgating, and probably in some instances needed to pack an extra suit or an extra dress shirt. considering the activities that he has been seen at in the supporters group tailgates and things like that. Darren is a rare animal, and Newcastle it was a fantastic hire. Gives Darren a chance to go back home. But yeah, Darren will definitely be missed. But I will say this, Jarrett. What this does is this sets up SDH going to Newcastle.
Oh man.
Ah,
That's gonna be a hell of a trip if that happens.
uh-huh.
Oh my God. Thank God I renewed my passport already.
Oh.
Yeah, and I talked about it a week ago on my opening kickoff that, Darren Eels all the way down to the street team and everyone in between on that launch did such a great job. And it takes a special kind of person to be like Darren, where you're out in front and you're out in public all the time, doing shots in the tailgates on the road or at home, doing all these things and some of that's part of the job. Some of that is just having that right personality to be able to go out and do it and not be overly awkward or fumbling through things, and just having that, to have that confidence to go do it. And it takes a special kind of person. And Eels is he's not dead, is a unique human being, and he'll be interesting to see in Newcastle. Because look, Newcastle's got a lot of money to spend. Newcastle, because of where that money is coming from, is going to have a very interesting bit of work ahead of them on the PR side of things.
Yes.
Darren Eels is not a bad guy to be leading that, to humanize a lot of that front office position, because sometimes I feel like in sports, the higher you get up in those front offices, the harder it is to almost humanize it, I guess, for lack of a better word.
So yeah, Darren is definitely going to be missed from all of that, to the billboards, to Trainee McTrain face, and legitimately, I honestly think that that should be submitted for a regional Emmy, just because, and all the stuff that Darren does. I think that that Trainee McTrain face has to go in for regional Emmy submissions next year, just because of all the effort that the Atlanta United media team does to produce these kinds of projects and products every single day. I think that they are underappreciated, and having Darren play along in a situation like that, very, very cool. Also on the board from Shiva this morning. Yeah, Shiva and El Mataflo will wrap things up for us when it comes to Atlanta United, and we'll kind of preview the rest of the day here. Shiva wants to know why we think the team is so inconsistent. Why have we not been able to build off of a good and positive performance and put at least 2 wins together back to back? In my opinion, it's not only injuries. I personally think how the coaches are getting the team ready before the game. And then there's been a subsequent conversation with Shiva and Emilio, and that's what we also like to see here as well, is that folks put stuff out there in timelines, and you guys get to have conversations too. But that's what Shiva is just wondering about. Why is the team so inconsistent, Jarrett?
I don't know. The only time in recent memory
we'd be rich.
The only time in recent memory where you put together the performances you needed was you did it against RSL. You came out and you blitzed an RSL team that has been pretty solid in the Western Conference. And then you, aside from a weird free kick at the start of the game against Orlando that dooms you, you lit up Orlando. Like we said yesterday, you play that game 8 times. You play that game 10 times. 8 times out of 10, you've blown Orlando off the field with the work you did.
Yep.
And so it's frustrating because you didn't get those back-to-back wins. But I thought you played really well against Orlando. You did everything right. Pedro Gallese just stood on his head.
Yeah.
And stuff happens in that respect. Why you can't string it together more than that, I don't know. I know he talked about, and I know this was a big talking point over the weekend, the Almada starting on the bench instead of Moreno. And I would like to see Almada start in Chicago because of what he gives you and what he has given you in the last few games that he has come off the bench. I want to see him starting. I understand the mindset with Gonzalo Pineda about we wanted to have consistency and a fluidness and a concrete setup that goes week to week, because you haven't really had that most of the year. Like, guys have been coming in and out, changing, and now you're starting to get that. Some guys are starting to come back a bit, and they're getting closer and closer to being healthy. But I think at that point, and some of it can be matchup related, man, I really do hope it's Dago Amata getting the start in this next matchup against Chicago. And you got to, like you said, you got to go from there. You have to build off of this, what was a lackluster performance against Los Angeles. Like, yeah, you came out in the second half and you fought, and then LA did a really good job of doing what Atlanta can do when they get up in a game, which is getting a foot on the ball and kind of taking the air out of it a bit and taking some of the sting out of somebody's attempt to kind of rise into the game. But it'll be very interesting to see if they're able to build off of that, because I don't know why they cannot seem to group this and put together 2-3 performances in a row that are really good.
Yeah. El Mataflo is in as our last thought here for Wall Pass Wednesday. And he wants to know, and this is about as wide open a question as humanly possible. What do you think needs to happen with the team going forward? We've committed to Fortune and Cobb coming in. Who needs to prove themselves to stay? Who do you adamantly commit to? All your opinions, of course, with the smiley face emoji to follow. Well, and the thing, like I said, I will make.
Yeah, no, I mean, I got thoughts on it. Go ahead, John.
Biggest thing for me, and I mentioned it earlier this week, I want Brad Guzan healthy. And we saw a video of Brad in the vacuum sealed treadmill getting work done. He's getting some miles done on the treadmill. So that's a good sign for Brad. I want Brad healthy. I want Miles healthy. I want Ozzie Alonso healthy. I want Andrew Gutman healthy. I want Brooks Lennon healthy. And I think that solves, 99% of your issues at the back in a perfect world. I think that Santi Sosa getting healthy, I think, would help at your 6. I think one of the decisions you have to make is Emerson Hyndman. I want Emerson Hyndman healthy. We've seen him integrate the way that you want when it comes to the system for Gonzalo Pineda. Unfortunately, Emo has had 2 injuries that have held him back. I think that you're looking at Franco Ibarra, and what we've seen from Franco Ibarra has been impressive as he's continued to grow and been pressed into places. I think that you look at Ronaldo Cisneros, and Cisneros has worked within the system that is there. And there are going to be questions that are going to be tied to contracts that have large amounts of money attached to them. And I think that that's the biggest thing. But the biggest thing for me, Mataflo, first and foremost, and I will continue to say this, getting everybody healthy, because we saw what the team was like with Ozzie Alonso, with Miles, with Gutman, with Lennon in those first couple of matches. And you've also seen what they're like without those individuals. Remember, you didn't get your prime starting 11 until July. You didn't get the guys that you were looking for to all be in one place until July. And so that's like this month, like 4 weeks ago. You didn't get that starting 11 that you wanted until this month in this season. And so you're having to fight uphill. But for me, first and foremost, yes, I know you're going to have to make some decisions with contracts and dollars. Since you're in a cap league, welcome to it. Merry Christmas. But the biggest thing for me, get guys healthy so you can work from the slate that you had at the beginning of the season. Go for it, Jared.
Yeah, you got to get guys healthy. You're going to have to make decisions, and not just getting guys healthy, but, a guy like Brad Guzan, who I hope is able to come back, because I think he's too stubborn not to try. You want to see what he can give you, because it's really hard coming back from an Achilles at his age. It's not impossible by any stretch. I think he can do it, but it's going to be tough. You've got decisions to make there. You've got decisions to make on the back line. Because you're going to have Noah Cobb coming up, who is, and if y'all haven't watched the twos, man, Noah Cobb is just that dude. And I say that without trying to put too much pressure on him. I don't want people to expect him to come in here and be, a virtuoso wonderkind at the age of 17 or 18 years old, man. But Noah Cobb is so talented. Johnny Fortune continues to basically take every challenge put in front of him. Now, how do you deal with the glut of humans there? Is Barata going to be someone you bring in long term? Is it going to be him or Franco or Alan Franco, who, you decided we got to move on from somebody and we'll take our lumps going with younger players and building chemistry there. Miles Robinson coming back, how is he going to be? I mean, does an offer come in for Miles Robinson in the off season? It kind of felt like this was a year for Miles Robinson that was going to be playing MLS, put together another solid year, which he's more than capable of, go play in a World Cup, and then you make that move to Europe that feels like is the move for him. Does that change now? How do you handle the midfield? Is it, a Marcedic and Mateus Seto, who I think has really taken steps forward this year.
Yeah. And
Emerson Heineman, who was really good when he's on the field, but no one's ever made a roster sitting on the training table. Where do you make moves? Where do you make cuts? Where do you save money? We've gotten the question, and people have bantered around the question about Joseph Martinez. Like, is he a $4 million a year guy? If he's not, I don't think Ronaldo Cisneros is necessarily your answer, because I think if Joseph's not getting paid that DP money, you're going to go spend DP money on another striker, on somebody bigger and somebody, more impactful.
I think Ronaldo's
Ronaldo Cisneros is fine. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not paying Ronaldo Cisneros $4 million a year. And I think if you get in that situation, you're going to be looking for someone bigger than Ronaldo Cisneros.
Right.
And full credit to him. I'm very glad he's been able to take advantage of the opportunity to, putting up 6-7 goals this year. Cisneros has done fine. But yeah, you're going to have some decisions to make in that midfield on that back line about, where do you want to spend the money? How do you want to spend the money? It will be very interesting, because you'll probably be looking to move on from some guys. Maybe some guys' contracts run out and you don't renew them, or you try and renew them at a lower number and they go on somewhere else. That's just business.
Welcome to business in a cap league.
Yep.
Viewing habits today. What are you going to be watching?
Oh man. Well, tonight it will be U.S. Open Cup. We're going to see if Sacramento Republic can get over the hill against Sporting Kansas City, who have handled the season perfectly, because Kansas City is a hot mess, but they poured all their eggs into the basket of U.S. Open Cup, and now they sit in the semifinal, getting to play a USL team with a chance to go to the U.S. Open Cup final, with a chance to get hardware and a spot in CONCACAF Champions League next year. Nice work, Peter Vermes, throwing all your eggs in that basket correctly. Then, of course, the other one being
Red Bulls.
Orlando. Yeah, Orlando and Red Bulls again. I'll be watching those. I believe you have the other Women's Euro final today, or semifinal today, excuse me.
3:00 this afternoon, Germany and France. Yeah.
Yep. So that'll be my schedule.
I think it's time for me to cut a promo. So here is your promo. It's from our friends at Eliminize Service. For odor-free, clean, fresh air, one place you need to go. It is Eliminize Service. Deodorizing enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos, they've created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pet, cigarettes, and food. Realtors and property managers use Eliminize Service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent their homes that much faster. Turnkey process makes it easy to work with those realtors and property managers. Kind of the environment, offering a green way. We like that these days, to get rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue whatsoever. Different than Febreze or our other masking agents that we have under the sink, because when you reach under the sink or in the cabinet, you spray the masking agent in the air, it's a masking agent. It's not going and attacking the odor all the way down to the molecule like Eliminize Service does with their proven scientific formula. Pricing very, very easy, one of two ways. Either by cubic feet or parts per million to come up with a price that's affordable for you. Offering results in 24 hours or less. Frequently asked questions or otherwise, you can go to this location, their website, eliminize.com, but do us a favor, eliminize.com/Atlanta, so they know what part of the world that you are addressing them from, so they can give you the help that you need. So your full homework assignment, eliminize.com/Atlanta. Eliminize.com/Atlanta for odor-free, clean, fresh air. Eliminize Service, proud sponsors of Everything SDH. Now let's take a tour of the papers and all the gossip, rumor, and innuendo heading into the day and the afternoon. The Lisandro Martinez deal is done. I'll give you the updates on that one and a couple of others. £56.7 million for the deal to sign Martinez from Ajax. Cristiano Ronaldo is holding talks with Erik ten Hag as Atletico and Bayern both rule out a move for the Manchester United forward. Chelsea's interested in Leicester defender Wesley Fofana And Juve looks like they might be targeting Timo Werner or Anthony Martial if the Morata deal fails. West Ham has completed their £35.5 million deal for Scamacca. And let's get into all of the other activity that's been going on. Vincent Kompany, the head the big boss at Burnley, says Maxwell Cornet will be integrated into the matchday squad if he is still at the club next week. Ivory Coast striker is still attracting interest from a number of Premier League clubs, but a transfer is yet to materialize ahead of Burnley's season opener against Huddersfield on Friday night. Cornet is training with the club, will not be considered against the Terriers due to his physical condition, quoting Vincent Kompany. He's one of them that I have had to manage at the moment. He's at the club. Is he ready to play on Friday? No. Same situation for Dwight McNeil, also linked with a move away from Turf Moor following relegation from the Premier League last year. You could add Cornet and McNeil to the names like Tarkovsky, Pope, Collins, and me if they are out the door. Everton has completed the loan signing of defender Ruben Vinagre from Sporting Lisbon. Left-sided player spent a few seasons at Wolves, Frank Lampard's second summer signing after the free transfer of James Tarkovsky from Burnley. AS Roma, and this is from Fabrizio Romano, AS Roma and PSG in direct contact for Gini Wijnaldum. Now all parties keen on completing the move. Still work to be done on salary and more details. Wijnaldum also has other proposals, but he's now giving priority to Roma as a favorite destination. Also on the board, Burnley set to sign Brazilian right back Vitinho, according to Fabrizio Romano. A surprising move, according to Romano, signing the Brazilian right back from Cercle Bruges. Done, agreement in place. Been told it will be official soon. Medical's already been completed. The contract is until June of 2026. Agreed. Company wanted Vitinho as a primary target. Also on the board, Barcelona, according to Romano, one step away from signing Jules Koundé. The agreement with Sevilla close to be completed. Negotiations progressing well. Deal finally moving to the last steps. Koundé and his agent waiting after personal terms were agreed to last weekend. Kevin Mbabu has been signed for £6.5 million by Fulham from Wolfsburg. And Fulham chief Tony Khan has tried to acquire the Swiss international many times over the years from Young Boys in Wolfsburg, and now finally landed the defender on a 3-year deal. Fulham also have an agreement in principle with Arsenal over the signing of goalkeeper Bernd Leno in a deal worth £8 million. Once final details are finalized, the 30-year-old will have a medical and sort personal terms. Once again, reminder on the full deal on Lisandro Martinez. Total £57 million. 24-year-old defender signed a 5-year deal with an option for another year. United pays Ajax a guaranteed €57 million, £48.5 million, plus an additional 10 in add-ons at £8.5 million with the conversion rate. So Lisandro Martinez is in the door. Steve Cooper impressed with, so far, his new signing Jesse Lingard and how he's rubbing off on folks. Signed a 1-year deal after leaving Manchester United on a free. So high marks for Jesse Lingard from Steve Cooper. Ziyech wants a move from Chelsea to AC Milan, according to the 4-letter newspaper, but he'll have to take a pay cut to do it. A report claims the Blues are willing to let the Moroccan international leave for £8.4 million, but his £5 million wage is a stumbling block for the Italian champs. Nottingham Forest top priority for the midfield is William Carvalho. Talks on the Portuguese midfielder, very strong interest. Huge opportunity, according to Fabrizio Romano, for William in the Premier League with an ambitious club like Nottingham Forest, pushing to sign him as a primary target. Crystal Palace fullback Tayo Adaramola has joined Coventry City on a season-long loan. Debuted in the FA Cup last year, represented the Republic of Ireland in the U21s last summer. Napoli signed Fenerbahce defender Kim Min-jae in a £16.8 deal. Replacement for Koulibaly, who joined Chelsea earlier this month. They activated the £16.8 million release clause in his Fenerbahce deal, have set their own at £37.8 million, can only be triggered by foreign clubs, according to Sky in Italy. Napoli beat out Rennes and Everton, and it's the second defensive signing for Napoli in the window after they secured Leo Østigard from Brighton. Thumbing through the papers and staying away from the 3- and the 4-letter papers when it comes to information on file. The Guardian, Juve have approached Chelsea about signing Timo Werner on a loan. Premier League clubs want championship sides to commit to developing young British loan talent as a part of the restructuring of the finances in the English game. The Daily Mirror, Atletico Madrid president Enrique Cerezo has said a move for Cristiano Ronaldo is, quote, practically impossible, end quote, for the Spanish side. Liverpool's preseason is about to go up a notch, playing Red Bull Salzburg after their camp in Austria. Avoiding the notes out of the three-letter paper, Manchester United refused to shift from their hard-line position, according to the Daily Telegraph, that Cristiano Ronaldo must stay at Old Trafford after an opening round of talks ended in an impasse. Premier League clubs are close to agreeing to a new deal for football, in quotation marks, which we talked about just a second ago, which will dramatically overhaul support systems for the cash-strapped lower tiers. And avoiding the four-letter paper, one other note, Dundee United closing in on a deal to sign Aziz Behic. According to the Daily Record, we've talked about that one for a while, so we'll see if that one makes its way through. Your viewing habits, once again, there's a lot of them. You've got Champions League today. The big day, if you've got some Europa Conference League today, but the big Europa Conference League day is tomorrow. 46 matches to choose from all morning and all afternoon. Some familiar faces in Champions League. Fenerbahce, Dinamo Kiev, Karabag, Malmo. So you've got the 6 matches today, a lot of friendlies. Primera Nacional starts in the middle of the afternoon in Argentina. Primera Nacional continuing throughout the afternoon and evening. You've got a lot of action in South America, whether it's Bolivia, Ecuador, Peru, Argentina has the Copa Argentina going on today. Primera Nacional with Almirante Brown is at 6 o'clock. You can go to fnatizfntz.co/soccer down here or check in on Paramount Plus or your favorite providers for that action. Liga de Expansión and Liga MX going tonight here in the midweek. USL League One going tonight with North Carolina and Richmond Kickers. 4 games in USL Championship going on tonight starting at 8 o'clock. Open Cup, Orlando City and Red Bulls, followed by Open Cup After Dark, Sacramento Republic hosting Sporting Kansas City. Liga MX matches 2 at 8 o'clock, Querétaro and Chivas, Necaxa and Pachuca. CONCACAF League is going on today as well, starting at 8 o'clock with Malacateco from Guatemala against Miguelito from Panama. Liga Expansión has 8 o'clock kicks as well. Rio Grande Valley, Hartford Athletic, and USL Championship. CPL, Canadian Premier League, going on at 9 o'clock Eastern Time. CONCACAF League is at 10. USL Championship is at 10, as well as 10:30. Liga MX late night is Pumas and Mazatlan. Make sure that all of your remotes are ready. They are charged and ready to go. Busy, busy day when it comes to everything going on in the world of soccer. Thursday Thoughts tomorrow. We'll do it all over again. For Jarrett, for Jason, for Nick, I'm John. Play it safe, everybody. Enjoy your very busy day on a Wall Pass Wednesday. Thanks for hanging out with us here at SDH. Mucho platiyo.